Hi everyone, welcome to the Appraiser Genie Appraise-It demonstration. My name is Angelia and I'm the Sales and Support Lead for Appraiser Genie, and I'm going to be hosting the webinar today with everyone. Now there may be users kind of trickling in the room, but I don't want to start too late since it is from 2 to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. But the great thing is as soon as we're through with the webinar, I will convert the video and you can go to appraisergenie.com. Click on the training tab and you can view this recorded webinar later today. Okay, now some of you guys may or may not be new users, past users, whatever the case is. This demonstration is going to take you through the program as if you've never used it before. We just recently integrated with Appraise-It, so that's why I'm doing the demonstration with Appraise-It today. If you do not currently use Appraise-It, you can go to appraisergenie.com, click on the training tab, and there is one previously recorded for total a la mode users. Now, if anyone's anticipating or waiting for ACI or click forms, we're not quite there yet, but that is around the corner, and if you are on our subscribers list, we'll make sure to notify everyone along the way. Now, I will hold questions until the end of the demonstration, just because we want to keep things moving. I will try to be as detailed as I can along the way. So I went ahead and hit record. So this, as stated, is going to be on appraisergenie.com. Just click on the training tab. Okay, now you should be able to see my screen. The first thing you'll notice is I have a picture on my screen indicating Appraiser Genie's MLS setup process. Now, there's not much required to use Appraiser Genie. The only step you need to take, no matter who you use, whether that's Total, Appraise-It, ACI, you have to have your MLS set up. In order to use Genie, your MLS must allow you to export your neighborhood search. So what that means to you is when you use Appraiser Genie, you log into your MLS, you create a neighborhood search based on whatever the subject property is that you're using. We do not have a direct access to your MLS, so that's why you guys will create the search, save it to a file on your computer, and that file has to be saved in our format. There are certain headers or certain fields we look for so we can provide you all the data analysis, all the adjustment, all the support. So it's not hard to do. It's just called a custom export, and it looks like a template. I'll show you guys what this looks like later if you're not sure what I mean, so don't worry. Initially, you'll need that done first. So down here, if your MLS has not been mapped, you need to email mls@appraisergenie.com for more information on getting started. You don't have to do this right now. Some users prefer to see the product before they have the MLS set up. That's fine, but it is free to you. You can set this up yourself, but it can be tedious. So if you guys are new users and you register for the webinar, you should have gotten an email from me indicating the MLS setup process. So once we're done with this webinar, if you want to go ahead and proceed with the MLS setup, just send a reply to the email. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize this now. Now, as you see, I already have a report open and ready, and I'm going to show you what you need to have in the report before you even use Appraiser Genie. So what you see here is just a random property I grabbed. I tried to make like a rural property where, it's not homogeneous or you can't find 500 comparables in the neighborhood. This one has a waterfront, so I tried to make one more specific to what most of you guys may run into, just to see how it works for you, opposed to somebody, in California where their neighborhood is 1,000 comps, that kind of thing. So as you see on page 1, all I have is a subject address, city, state, zip, and county. I put the neighborhood name in there. You don't have to have that. You can actually scroll all the way down and leave the middle of this page blank. You don't have to have any of this filled out beforehand, but you can. If the whole point of Genie is to finish the report, then by all means fill all this out. I kind of made a bare bones demonstration just so you see what you have to do initially. Okay, so you can scroll all the way down here. This middle section here, I just put some basic information as far as stories, unit, year built, design, indicated if heating and cooling were applicable, fireplace, patio, and of course carport, or driveway or garage. Okay, and then you simply scroll down to page 2. This is the bulk of the information we transfer into Appraiser Genie at a later point, so you'll want this filled out as much as you can. If you start with accurate data, you'll have accurate results. So don't depend, in my opinion, on public records to pull a lot of this for you, because it can, definitely can if it's there, but I recommend you have this filled out as well as you can. I indicated a fireplace, so I put that down there. And that's it. That's all I did. I didn't do anything else other than have the subject column on page 2 completed, and then some information regarding the subject on page 1. Okay, now we do not install Appraiser Genie for Appraise-It users. To access Appraiser Genie Cloud, you simply click on Services at the top here, and towards the bottom you will see Appraiser Genie Cloud. Now, you do need to purchase uses. I think Appraise-It has some kind of trial. If you buy 1 report, you get 10 free. I'm not sure if that's still current, but you will need to call Appraise-It to purchase uses. They actually are responsible for billing. So first thing we're going to do is just click on Appraiser Genie Cloud. You'll have the export. What this means to you is we're just transferring the information you see in your report to our software. Okay, now if you're a new user, you will not have an email and password. You will need to go to the bottom here and click on registration. Every new user, of course, needs to sign up, create an email and a password. I have already done that, which is indicated here by the email and password. So I'm just going to go ahead and click submit. Okay, so we're going to wait for this to load. Now, Appraiser Genie is web-based, so it's going to launch with whatever web browser you have set on your computer as your default. I run Chrome. It's just a much better browser. We don't recommend Internet Explorer or older versions of Internet Explorer, but by no means is that mandatory. Just for a better experience, I suggest Chrome or Firefox. Okay, now what you guys see here, this is not the page you're initially taken to if you're a brand new user. So I'm going to start this as if you've logged in and created a password for the first time. So this forward and backward arrow, they actually navigate you through the different tabs in Appraiser Genie. When you first start, the top tabs, these are grayed out because we have not imported any information for any analysis, so you cannot click on anything up here at this point. The only thing you can click on is this backward arrow, and we're going to arrow all the way over until we see a defaults tab, and we're going to click on this. You're taken to your defaults the very first time you run Genie, so we're going to start there. Okay, now the only difference for new users, you will come to this page automatically. You'll have a pop-up box. It's going to be the terms of service. You have to scroll to the bottom of the box, enter the initials, and agree to the terms of service with Appraiser Genie. Once you do that, you're taken where I am. So this is just starting brand new. Very important, the first thing you'll want to do is choose the software you're using. Make sure you have the right software selected. For example, if you're using Appraise-It, you accidentally click a la mode, your information doesn't transfer in. So it's important to make sure you have the right one. Okay, now below here, these are just defaults that you can set up to apply to your reports in Genie. By no means do you have to use every default here. Some of them may vary too much to actually set a default, but they are for you. For example, this concessions area, these little blue question marks, they will help you. In case you can't reach us or you just need more information, you can click on the blue question mark. And as you see, Genie is wanting you to enter the maximum percentage of concessions that's customary for your area. Anything over the maximum will automatically be adjusted. So for example, I have a 3 here, which indicates percentage. That's my maximum customary percentage. Anything reported over that, such as 5, it would only adjust for the difference of 1. So that's how that works. If your MLS doesn't report concessions or it just varies too much, you can put a 0 there and we'll just adjust for all concessions that are reported. So I'm going to put a 3. Same thing with this box here, this age variance. I have a 10 there, and basically what I'm telling Genie is don't adjust for the first 10 years difference in age. subject to comps. It basically skips over that. Anything over the 10 years, we will give you an age adjustment for. Once again, if that varies too much and you just want every year difference to be adjusted for as far as age, you can put a 0, which we'll do. Site size variance, this is a percentage. Whatever percentage you indicate here, we won't adjust for as far as site size. So from subject to comp, that first 30% difference in site size, basically skip over that. Anything over the 30%, we will give you a site size adjustment for. Or you can put a 0 and we'll just adjust for all site size. Okay, down here, you most likely will not change these. This is your subject, previous sales years prior, and your comp, previous sales years prior, indicated by 3 years and 1 year. I believe if it's FHA or USDA, I'm not sure. I think you change this to 3, but typically it'll be a 1 there. Okay, this is your minimum square foot to adjust. Whatever number you place here, Genie will not adjust for square feet. So if I put 100 there, we're basically skipping that first 100 square feet difference, and then anything over the 100, we will give you a square foot adjustment for. And of course that may vary. You may want 50 there instead of 100. Just put whatever you typically would. Okay, this next area is adjustment rounding. This just tells Genie how precise do you want your adjustment rounding to be. So I usually leave 100 there. It's going to go to the next 100 or 500 or 1,000. I'd like it to be as close as possible, so I'm going to click on 100. Okay, this following section, comp export sort order. When we export the comparables back to the grid, you can indicate how you want them ordered. So if you want close date or sales price or something in this list, you can just set it here, and that's how the comps will be exported back to your grid. Typically people will choose close date, but it's up to you. Okay, these are optional. Anything with a checkbox just indicates that we can complete this information for you, or you simply deselect anything you don't want and you will just do that yourself. So if you would rather provide your own effective age adjustment or reconciled value, you just deselect them. I recommend, until you get used to the program or just to see what we truly can do, I would leave them checked and then go in your report and take a look at it and see if you like what we produced. Now these calculated adjustments, these won't be in the grid, meaning if you wanted a wood deck adjustment or maybe a sprinkler or granite, there's nowhere in the grid these adjustments will apply, but later on when we export all the information back to your work file that we create for you in a PDF format, we will tell you, hey, for a wood deck, here's the adjustment value, or sprinkler, here's the adjustment value, if you leave them checked. So that's optional, depends on where you are, if that applies to you. Okay, this next section, National Association of Homebuilders. This is the National Association of Homebuilders single-family cost breakdown for constructing a home. So you can right-click on this and go to Open Link, a new tab, and it will take you to their website, and it will provide their information for the cost of constructing a home. When this is updated, you will automatically be updated as well, so this percentage would change if it changed for them. So I'm going to close this. All right, now this next section, Mls Acronym, this is really important. As I advised you guys earlier, your MLS has to have a custom template created first. So when you export your search to your computer and save it, it's in our format. What you put here is you indicate which MLS you use by the acronym. So this ABOR, that's just Austin Board of Realtors. That's what we use for ABOR. Interest is for Texas. It's an MLS in Texas. And for this particular demonstration, I'm using CRAR, which I believe is Cedar Rapids. So if you're not sure what to put there, it's not a problem. We keep this on file for you guys. So if you get to this point, you don't know what to put there, just call us and we'll gladly tell you what you do. Now, as you see, you can have up to 8 different MLSs. So if you are an appraiser who uses more than one MLS, we can set up each individual MLS for you, and you can use whichever ones you want in the Genie. Okay, now right here you have verification source. Now I'm going to go back to the report so this area makes sense. A lot of this information you see here is just to better complete the grid for you. So for example, under rights for property rights, if the MLS or of course public doesn't tell us this information, we wanted to put a default here so we can just export this back to the report as it is. So for example, if you put fee simple here, then on the report on page 2, for all of your comps, you're going to have fee simple automatically shown there. So those are just defaults to better complete the report for you on page 2 for the grid. Okay, so verification source goes right here. What we put there is the MLS acronym, so ABOR, for example. Then we will put the MLS number followed by the days on market. You don't have to do anything. That will just show up for you when you use Genie. That goes in data source. My apologies. Verification source just says, where do we pull this information? Do we pull it from MLS, the assessor, wherever it comes from? And this goes back to right here, this box. We're just going to put county assessor in there, or you can choose a drop-down box, and let's say you want something additional to county assessor. Maybe you want it followed by listing office. Whatever the case is, you can put up to 3 different things, and they'll all go in that verification source box. So it's up to you. I don't recommend you put more than 2 because at some point it's just going to cut off. Okay, so these things, I won't go too much in detail. They're pretty straightforward, location rating, whatever you want us to put in the grid. Now, mind you, if the MLS does indicate otherwise for these location rating or factor, we'll use what the MLS says. So that's just going to be standard if we're not advised. Same thing for view rating, view factor, functional utility, energy efficiency. They all work the same way. Now, Porch and Patio, what I do like to indicate here is we don't typically pull Porch and Patio for the comps, and that's just because a large majority of MLSs do not clearly state where the Porch and Patio information can be found. So what we did is we made a default in the grid under Porch and Patio, and you can just type something here, such as covered porch, covered patio, and then down here under Porch and Patio, it'll just always say CP there. And that's up to you. I prefer to leave it blank because it depends. If not a lot of properties in your area have Porch and Patios, then you may be better off just fixing it in the grid. It's up to you. Okay, now right here is blank row 1, blank row 2, blank row 3, and this refers to these bottom 3 blanks. Instead of you guys typing it yourself, if there's something you typically put there, maybe fireplace, pool, upgrades, workshop, whatever it typically is, you can use the Genie to pull that information instead of typing it in. So for example, this blank row 1, it just means for the first blank where I had fireplace right here, what do I want to go there? Well, I obviously use fireplace, so I put that in row A. And if you wanted more than one thing in that blank row 1, let's say you want fireplace followed by pool, that's all going to go just in blank row 1. I don't typically use it that way. And like I said, there's only so much you can type into these fields in the report anyway. So I put fireplace there. And upgrades I typically put in row 2 right here. And pool, if it has a pool or if I want pool information, I just put it down here in row 3. And there's a reason I put fireplace first and pool in the 3rd row, because your fireplace adjustment will always go in blank row 1, and for pool it always goes in blank row 3. So if you want it to line up perfectly when it's all exported back to the grid, I suggest if you use fireplace to put it in row 1 and pool if you use it in row 3. Everything else doesn't matter. There's a bunch of options in here. It has to be in this list, so if you're looking for something that's not in the list, then just do it yourself in the report. Because we have to have an actual way to pull this information or it won't be pulled. So we're going to scroll down. Okay, now right here, public records verification. What this means to you is when you're choosing the comparables you want for the report, you can tell Appraiser Genie for site, you know, you can't rely on your MLS, maybe they don't enter it, maybe it's not accurate, or maybe the public records are better in that area and you typically rely on that anyway. So what you can do is if you prefer Genie uses public record information to complete site, you can set it to use public. If you prefer MLS, let's just say MLS is actually better for you than public is. You can click on MLS, and we'll just automatically use MLS to complete the sign information. The last column here, peer, we basically, when you run through Appraiser Genie, you or other appraisers, we store the comps that are in Genie, and we report a running average of what the last maybe 20 uses were. So for example, if you run a comp through Genie and another appraiser in your area runs that same comp, we'll give them what the average was used for site or age, stories. Everything you see here, nothing outside of that, nothing proprietary, nothing related to the owner, just what you see here, general information. And that really depends on who's using it in your area, so that's not something I probably would default to use immediately, because if it's not in peer, then you're going to have to put it in yourself, so I don't recommend peer. I recommend one of these two. Lastly, ask me if you're really not sure what to put there. Maybe MLS is, the same as public and they're both kind of finicky. You can just leave it on ask me, and then later on we'll tell you what all sources said. We'll tell you what MLS said and what public said and our peer, if applicable, once we get to that point. So I'm just going to leave this on what I typically use, public. And basement square footage, hard to find between all of the sources, so I just leave it on ask me. That way if anyone does pull it, then I can use that source or just type my own value. Okay, so this last section here is column order. This bottom part here relates to how you see the comps displayed when you're choosing them for the report. There's a lot of information we show you for each comp, so we'll show you each comp subdivision, sales price, list price, etc. You can reorder this if there's a certain way you want to see the information. So for me, when I'm looking through the comparable properties, choosing what I want, I just immediately want to see the comps, GLA, upfront, days on market, subdivision, list price, sales price. Whatever the ordering is that you want to see the information in is what you do here. You just move it up or down, and it just puts in the order you want to see it. I will come back to this later so you can actually see what I mean. Okay, so once we scroll to the bottom of the page and we scroll back to the top, we now need to click on the Save button. Anytime you make a change, you definitely want to save everything. Don't think actually, yeah, I changed this one. I'll go ahead and save it since I did change my age variance. So we'll click Save. Now as this loads, you'll see there's additional tabs here. There are other things you can do as far as your defaults. For example, abbreviations. If you want to write out your own abbreviations as far as how this is entered in the report, for example, let's say Cool Central, you don't typically abbreviate with CAC, and you just want CA, whatever the case is. You can overtype them, and that's how it's going to export back to the report as far as Cool Central or anything you see in this menu. And I did confirm, by the way, guys, that Appraise-It is still offering the buy one report for $5 and get 10 free. So anyone who hasn't done that or is interested, you can contact them later. Hey, now comments. The comments is pretty cool. We fill out quite a few different comments in the report for you. You can change these, edit these, add to them. It's completely up to you. But what you see on this page is what's going to be entered in the report automatically. So I'm going to scroll down. For example, under 10.0 Form C, this is the comment that's going to display regarding your concessions. Anything in bracket just means that's information we're pulling from each report to complete for every report. So for each report, we're going to pull the MLS, the sales quantity, the concessions percentage if that's reported, and the 10.04 current sales to listing ratio indicate if it's increasing, stable, or decreasing. We do fill out the overall trend boxes as well. So anything in brackets doesn't have to make sense to you. It's just something that Genie does for you, so we can give you kind of detailed comments and help you complete as much of them as we can. Now the cool thing that probably would differentiate us is you're not stuck to sort of stock comments. You can erase this and actually write your own, and I will show you. So for example, this one is going to go under the subject previous comment in the report, and I've already messed with this section, so it actually says a little more than this, but here's an example. I can completely erase that and write my own. And I would stop there. So if I want Genie to pull the sell date or whatever I want them to pull, you click on Quick Pick, and that's related to the subject. So you hover over subject, and let's just say I want the sell date. If you click on sell date, now it's going to put that in brackets, and it's going to pull the sell date for every comp I use. So that's a really cool thing. You'll definitely want to look through here at your own time. It can take a little while, but they're definitely to your advantage. Definitions is a page of definitions from the Appraisal Institute. As far as any jargon or language or adjustments, we give you a definition of exactly what we're doing in Appraiser Genie, and it will be put in your work file, so you can copy and paste this, do whatever you want with it. Okay, and the last thing is we do actually give you guys up to 10 different graphs. I already have graphs displayed here, so later on when we export all the information back, I will show you guys a couple of sample graphs just so you can get an idea of what they look like or how they can benefit you. And all you do is, this is graph 1. From the drop-down box, you simply indicate month, quarter, or year. I have quarter here. And then below you choose which type of graph you want, which I have histogram, and this is one graph. You can choose, as stated, up to 10 different graphs. You just need to select them manually. All right, so that's the gist of the defaults. The only other tab was password, and if you ever need to change your Appraiser Genie password that you initially create to sign up, you just type the new one here and then click Save. Okay, so what you do now, once you've finished the defaults, we need to actually start the report. The report has not been started yet. This is something you do one time initially, or come back as often as you need to if you need to modify it. And once we're done, we're going to go back to this forward and backward arrow. Once again, this is how you navigate. So we need an arrow all the way to the front, and there's a tab that says Input. Input, you want to click on that. That's basically how you start the report. It's your home page. So when you guys use this on your own, just tab back and forth, set up your default, save it, and then just arrow back over. And this is what you'll see from now on, every time after you initially set it up. So what you see at the top is your subject here, which is pulled from your Appraise-It report. You don't have to have the parcel number or the legal number in the report. As you see, mine was blank. But it still pulls the information, and it will place it back in the report if you don't already have it in there. Now what you do is you just follow the page top going down. So the first thing we're going to do is enter the effective date of the report. There's a calendar. I'm just going to choose today as an example. Okay, then you go down to the next arrow. This is the form you're using. We have quite a few different forms we can complete for you guys, so just make sure you pick the right one. We're completing this top one, 1004 UAD 1-4 family, which is single family. Okay, now your MLS acronym, since I entered them in the defaults, you'll notice I have ABOR here, interest, and CRAR. Make sure you change it to whichever MLS you're using for this specific report, or if you're just using one, then just leave it as to whatever it displays. Okay, below that is cost approach. Now, cost approach, we will give you the information. We will support and document all cost approach information, but it's up to you whether you want it completed on page 3 of your report. So if the client doesn't require that cost approach is in the report, you can change it to no, or if you want us to go and fill that out, you can leave it on yes. Okay, to the right-hand side, these are also additional addendums we can complete for you. So if they apply, you just simply click on the box. This last one, if it's required that the actives are on their own grid versus being thrown in with the solds, then you check this box and we'll make what is called a listing addendum, and only the actives will be on the grid. That's optional, depends on if you need it or not. All right, so right here, this is the part where some people get a little confused on, so I'm going to explain it the best I can. Very simply, your only job when you use Appraiser Genie is you log into the MLS. You create a neighborhood search based on the subject. So I've already done this part because you would want to do this before you start Genie. So what I did is I logged into CRAR. I created a neighborhood search. I went back at least 1 year. I grabbed sold, actives, pendings. And I didn't narrow it outside of that other than the area because that's all I really needed to do with this specific property, which it should have said right here. I think I erased it, but there's an area in the MLS I searched for along the lines of this, and that's all I did. I just defined it by the area. I didn't narrow it by site, age, GLA. I didn't do anything like that because you're just defining the boundaries. That's it. So I saved that file to my computer, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So give me 1 second. Okay, so after I logged into my MLS and I created a neighborhood search, I simply saved it to the template I already had on my MLS because that's already been done. Now when you save it to your computer, it's probably going to save to Excel or in a text file. Either one of those are fine. This is a CSV file, so it opens with Excel. But you'll notice all the comps, they're in a specific order. These field headers, that's why we need to create a custom export. If you just export it as is, they may throw city up front or close price may be somewhere else, and we have to have it in this order that you see right here. So this is a Genie template is what you're looking at, and that's what we're going to do for you guys. Now this is a smaller area. There's only 47 comps in this entire neighborhood I did because it's just a smaller area. I'm sure some of you may be from this area, I'm not sure, but that's all I did. And I saved it to my computer. So we'll come back to this in a moment. Okay, so the reason why you just simply create the neighborhood boundaries and save it to your computer is because to the left, these are your comp search narrowing filters. So what we do is we take the file you saved to your computer. You can further narrow that file down based on these parameters you see here, much like in your MLS. And that's going to produce what we call a true comp search. So only the most truly comparable properties will remain after you narrow it down here. So for example, I put a 30 here, and that's telling Appraiser Genie I want to take the subject site size, and I want the comparables to only be within 30% of the subject site size plus or minus. That's what the plus or minus indicates. And the percentage is what you have to use here. That's why there's a percentage sign. So anything that doesn't meet the 30% for site, it will stay in the neighborhood search, but it will not display on the comp search page, and you can't choose it for your report. So this is a really good way to fine-tune basically your 1004MC or just fine-tune the most comparable properties out of the initial search you do. You don't have to use every single parameter here. They're not all going to apply. You can narrow it too much. So for example, age, I put a 5 here, and that's years. So Genie is going to look at the comparables. They have to be within 5 years newer or 5 years older of the subject. If they're not, they stay in my neighborhood search. And this may make more sense along the way, but all you're doing is narrowing the search down to give you the true comp search. If you leave a 0 there, it's just going to ignore this particular field. So if you don't care to narrow the search by stories, you just leave the 0 there, and we don't do anything with it. Anything with a 0 here. Okay, now this next section is reconciliation weighting. This is a use path requirement. You need to score 1 through 10, 10 being most similar between the 3 approaches you see here. Most appraisers put a 10 here, and that's just indicating you want the full weighting on sales comparison. Or you can divide it up. It just has to add up to 10. So you can put an 8 and a 2, or leave these blank and just put a 10 there. And this next section is highest and best use. Pretty straightforward. The top use is current, which is residential. Below is possible, which is residential. And multifamily shows is possible, but if it's not applicable, click the down arrow, click the blank space, and it gets rid of it. All right, so this next section here is land comp sales. This is entirely optional. You will see a bunch of green fields. This is for you to manually enter any data that you need to. But you only use this section if you have raw land value that needs to be reconciled. So if that applies, you type the address, sales price, site size, etc. so we can incorporate this information, or you leave it blank and we'll still provide the land value for extraction, allocation, or regression. Now, as stated, that's optional, so I'm going to skip this. Okay, this last section is square foot method. This is also optional. Anything indicated by a green box, it allows you to transfer any information you want here. This section really is only for Marshall and Swift users. So if you currently subscribe to Marshall and Swift and you want to take the data they give you and transfer it here, you can. Or you can get rid of Marshall and Swift because we use billingcosts.net, which is free to use. So you could get rid of them, or you can just skip this entirely and we'll complete this section and this section for you. Okay, so we're going to scroll back to the top. We're done. And that's all you do. You just start top going down. Once you're ready to go ahead and proceed, there's a button on the left-hand side that says Start the Report. Now when I click on this button, what it does is it opens up my computer's File Explorer because it's looking for that MLS export. So once again, I've already done this part. We don't go through this in detail during the webinar just because there's so many different MLSs that do it entirely differently. So you'll want to log into your MLS. If you need help with that, just give us a call. We're very familiar with this. Okay, so once again, it's opening my File Explorer. This is my MLS search that I showed you guys earlier, which is still down here. And all I'm going to do is transfer that information I saved into Genie. So I'm going to double click on this. What we're going to do is we're going to transfer that search into Genie. We're also going to narrow it down based on the site size and the age, since I did put a parameter here. We also geocode, we correct all the addresses, and we, in general, scrub the MLS data just in case there's invalid characters in there or something we couldn't use. We just clean it up for you, make it as UID compliant as we can. Okay, now what you see here is the page you're just automatically taken to. This is your subject information. All we did is we transferred the subject information from here, page 2 of the report, and we just transferred it into this box here. Now this information gets sent to billingcosts.net. All of your subject information does. So you'll want to look through here, make sure everything's correct. If it's not, for example, if it had a rec room, you could put a 1 or whatever the case is. Just make sure this is accurate. It is important to state the quality rating. That's really important. Make sure you guys assign the correct quality rating for the subject. That does affect your adjustments. And that can cause them to be high, too low. So make sure that's accurate. Mine's a Q3. Okay, now once you've verified everything is accurate, you click Next. Now grading and sorting comps, what we're going to do is we're going to take you to the narrowed search. This pop-up you guys won't see, so disregard that. But what you will see right here is a counter. This counter at the top tells you on this page there are 3 actives, there are 10 sold, and there's 1 pending for a total of 14. So as you see, we started with over 47, and just because I narrowed it by site and age, Genie reduced that to 14 comparables. So the 14 here, they met the parameters and they're true comps. So after, I've done the MLS search and I narrowed it, these are the 14 that remain. So these 14 are considered your true comparable properties, and I will give you more information on how this affects your adjustments. So on this page, out of the 10 sold, all 10 will be used for regression analysis. Regression analysis is great, but it's better used if you have many more solds than 10. We try to recommend at least 100 sold properties, otherwise regression comes out extremely high or extremely low. It just honestly depends on your data set. So we'll still give you the support if we're able to run regression for you. You'll still have a PDF whether you use it or not. Okay, so for this total here, for 14 in total, all 14 are going to go into the matched pairs analysis. So if any matched pairs are present in the 14, you'll have a matched pair adjustment. And once again, that just depends on if there's one difference in amenity subject to these 14 comparables here. Now lastly, for extraction and allocation, we use the subject and the comps you choose for the report. So for an allocation and extraction adjustment, that is all that's used, the subject and whatever you select on this page here. And that's kind of important to know just because it can help you fine or tune the adjustments, or it just helps you in understanding what we do for you. So I try to explain this page in detail to help you out. Okay, now earlier as stated, I told you guys you can change the column headers around, and this is the page I was referring to as indicated by this blue tab. We're on the comp search page. Any tab that's blue, that's where you are, which is where we are right here. All right, so I'm going to scroll over. All this information is displayed for each comp. This is all dependent on the MLS. So for example, if the MLS doesn't give us stories just because they don't, there'll be a 0 there because they didn't let us export that information. Pool, if there's a pool, or if they simply do not let you export anything related to pool, there'll be a 0 there. So keep in mind at this point is dependent on your MLS and what they allow you to export or what the realtor enters from the MLS. So I'm going to scroll back over. And these are the column headers I like to see them in. So for example, I like GLA right here, days on market right here, maybe followed by subdivision, etc. Because if you're looking for something and you don't order it, you're going to have to scroll all the way over. So might as well put in an order that works for you. Okay, now there's a couple of buttons up here. If you get to this point and you're looking through this data for the comps and you find that maybe somehow a comp got through to this point and they're not actually a true comparable, you know, maybe say the sales price is $500,000 and the subject is $200,000, or the GLA is $5,000 and your subject's $2,000. Whatever the case is, if it makes it to this page and you want to delete it so it doesn't affect your 1004MC or any kind of analysis, you can just check the box. For example, if you want to get rid of these two, you check them, you click on delete selected comps, you would check yes, I'm not going to do that, and it just erases it from this page so it doesn't affect anything. The subject box here, all that does is populate the box we saw earlier just for a reference. So if you don't want to go back to the report or look at your MLS sheet for the subject info, just repopulate this here and then we'll just show you everything relating to your subject. Now we do actually put this page in order for you, starting at the top, going down, starting with closest proximity to your subject, then most recently sold, then least adjusted. So from this ordering, we're indicating 180 Ridgewood Drive is going to be the closest to the subject, followed by the other criteria I just listed. Now you don't have to use this ordering by any means. For example, if you more so care about GLA, maybe you want GLA highest to lowest or vice versa, you can click on any column header, even alphabetically. If you click on it, it reorders it. So it looks like it's going smallest to biggest, and you can click on it again, and now it's going highest to lowest. And I stated you can do this with any columns. You can do this with city. If there's more than one city, you can click on that. And starting with C's, of course, going down, and you can click on it again to go higher to lower. Now, of course, if you do that, you're going to take away the closest proximity, most recently sold, least adjusted. So if you change the ordering and you decide you want to go back to how we had it, you can click on Reset Sort Order, and it just reverts it back to the initial way it was displayed. Okay, now what you do on this page, the S indicates a sold. If there's any actives, there will be an A. Any pendings, there will be P. Expireds, E. Withdrawn, W, etc. What you have to do on this page is choose up to 3 comps that you want to use for your report, up to 9 if you're an Appraise-It user. If you use total, they can go as high as 15, and ACI I'm not sure about. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab some comps for a demonstration. And theoretically, if I create the correct neighborhood boundaries, if I narrow it accurately, the best comp should be towards the top. Of course, there's some information we can't account for, which you would influence that yourself. So we're just going to click on a couple. So what it's going to do is it's going to take the 3 comps we chose, and it's going to verify these 3 with the MLS information against public records, against our peer database. So if the 3 sources, if they report any kind of discrepancy for these addresses, for site, age, GLA, whatever the case is, we will have a pop-up box, if that's set up in the defaults, like this. So for example, if you guys remember earlier when I showed you Ask Me, Public Records, Peer Database, or MLS, the only field I left on Ask Me was basement square footage. So if you leave anything on Ask Me, this pop-up box displays. And that's good. Like I said, if you're not really sure who would have basement square foot information, leave it on Ask Me and we just show you what they all say. So MLS says 3641, Public says 1465, and Peer 3641. Now I ran this multiple times today, so this value is just showing you what it last said when I ran it, most likely. So what you do is you go through here and you decide, okay, for this address, for basement square footage, what do I want to use? Some appraisers print off their MLS listing as they go through it. If you already know the comps you want, whatever you want to do, just pick the right value. Or if this is wrong and this is wrong, you can type your own value here in Peer Database. So for example, if you find both of those are wrong, you can overwrite whatever you want there and click on Use Peer, and we'll just use whatever value you put here. For me, I'm just going to go with public information. So I'm going to use this bottom box, and it's just going to pull basement square foot with public records for all of the comps if there's a discrepancy. So I'm going to click on this. Okay, so we're already about through. On the left-hand side, you're going to have your subject address. If you scroll down, all of the boxes that have information filled out, that comes from your total report or your Appraise-It report. And if Public Records has any information, maybe you forgot to fill in site, we'll pull the public information and enter it here. Now you can overwrite any of these fields, any of these boxes on this page, you can overwrite them or add to them. And the cool thing with Genie is if you modify anything at this point, any adjustments or any support that's affected by that, we will automatically update behind the scenes. So that's great because it's not set in stone, because we understand maybe MLS and Public both don't give you site information. You have to manually put it in here. You can do that. So just keep in mind this is completely changeable if you need it to be. Okay, so once again, this is your subject. Now this should look like page 2 of the report. So I'm going to go back. Left-hand side, you have your subject, just like in the Genie. You use this horizontal bar at the bottom to scroll over. And on the right-hand side, here's your first comp, 75 Ridgewood Drive. All the information you see below it, that was pulled from MLS, Public, or Peer. Keep scrolling over. Here's your second comp, information down below. And lastly, we have 150 North 16th Street, and the information is down below. Anything you see with a pink box, that's just Genie using public records. So for example, if you look straight across the page, stories, it goes horizontally over. This is the story count for this address, and we use public records to pull stories because the MLS didn't have it, or one of the two didn't have it. So that's why this is here. Now what you would want to do, of course, is you do want to look through this information. We can pull what we can pull. You know, there's only so many sources we have, public records, MLS, Peer Database, but anything that we're missing because none of the sources had the information, you'll definitely want to look through here, make sure everything's good to go. If you need to change anything, you can. For example, this is a square foot for 150th North 16th. That was pulled from public, but if you disagree, you can overwrite that. Just click enter, and then we'll update anything affected by it. So we'll go back over. Now, this page reads horizontally, so just use the headers to go straight across the page, and it indicates what the information's for. Okay, so lastly, what you do on this page, the adjustments are on this page, which is side by side. So once you get to this point, all the adjustments for allocation, regression, match pairs, and extraction, they've already been ran based on the information I told you earlier as far as what we use for regression, what we use for allocation, extraction, and match pairs. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you where this information is displayed. Right here to the left, this says time per month. This one indicates site value, age, bath, etc. All these are different types of adjustments we give you. By no means do you have to use every single adjustment. use what you typically would or what you want, and we will back this information up for you in your work file, which I will show you later. There's a heating and cooling, garage and carport, patio, fireplace, fence, and pool. Now, in order for these adjustments to be entered into the grid, you have to manually click on the adjustments you want to use. So, for example, for age, if you look over, there's a value here indicated, and just look up, that's extraction. So we're telling you if you want an age adjustment, it's $9,200 per year based on the extraction method. So very simply, if I want that adjustment to be placed in the grid, I click on the box, it turns blue and it loads. Straight across each comp, here's my first comp's age, is my first adjustment. It's just horizontally placed. Here's my second comp, second adjustment, third comp, third adjustment. So as you see, we'll make the adjustment for you and place it in the grid. Now if you skip these, that's fine. You're still going to have all the support and documentation in case you want to later make your own adjustment or use these as a basis in case there's things we can't incorporate, that sort of thing. That's up to you. I'm going to show you guys a couple of things that may answer some questions. I'm sure you guys are wondering, well, you know, how did $1,700 come to be as far as a bath adjustment for allocation? Where does that come from? If you get to this page and you have questions, you can now click on all these tabs at the top, and you just look at what type of adjustment. It's an it's an allocation bath adjustment. So we're going to tab over, arrow over, and go to the allocation page. Click on it, and we're going to see why the bath adjustment was that value. Okay, so you're going to get this allocation percentage of total value. What we do for you guys is we send the subject information to buildingcosts.net. They return the percentages back to us based on the total replacement cost. So if the total replacement cost is 100% and they indicate, okay, for GLA you should take 62% of that, that's where these percentages come from. They come from buildingcosts.net. We give you a full breakdown as far as what a full bath, half bath, any heating and cooling, appliances, flooring, fireplace, granite. This is all here for you for your documentation. And what you're looking at right now is basically going to be converted into a PDF that I will show you later. Now, something I want to show you down here, this is the average dollar per square foot from comps. We provide this information for you. So what we do is we take the subject and the 3 comps I chose, we take the GLA for each one, we give you a median, same thing for sales price, site value, concessions, adjusted sales price, dollar per square foot. So this $90 indicated towards the bottom, this is the mean dollar per square foot based on the comparable properties we chose. And remember this $90 value because that relates to your adjustments. So I'm going to scroll back up. And as you see right here, back to this $100 total replacement cost, GLA 62%. So we take this 62% into that $90, which is the average dollar per square foot. And right down here is why we indicate you should adjust at $55 per square foot based on the allocation method, which you'll see once I go back to that page. So that's just one insight as to how these adjustments are derived. It's very easy to read. You just very simply need to look in the PDFs for the support. So I'm going to tab back over, and I will show you guys extraction, just a few examples. Okay, so as far as this market-driven GLA adjustment, we apply the GLA dollar per square foot and the garage dollar per square foot from the cost page to the comp GLA and the garage square foot to get the replacement cost. Then we deduct that national average for constructing a home, So in your defaults, where there was a 61.7% for the national average for constructing a home, we apply that, we deduct that from the cost percentage to get the net replacement cost. So this may look like a lot of information, but you very simply, any math, you just follow the math here. It's telling you take A times B plus C times D. So that's A times B plus C times D. Very easy to read. Once again, all this information is in your work file. So I'm going to scroll back to the top, and I'm going to go back to the side-by-side page so we can finish the adjustments. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down. Now, anything else I want to adjust for, I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So, for example, as I look through here, this is the bath adjustment, which is going to be a $1,700 bath adjustment if there's a difference, or half if it's a half bath. So I'm going to click on this. It's going to load blue. And if there's an adjustment that applies for bath, it will apply one. This was the same, so it didn't adjust. That's going to be your total room count, bed, bath, same thing for the comps, total room, bed, bath. If there's no adjustment to be made, you'll see a $0 value. So I'm going to go down. This one's GLA. If I want to use the $70 per square foot allocation, I click this, or if I want to go with the $51 per square foot extraction, I click this. So I'm just going to click this one. And as indicated, here's my first comps GLA, straight across, and this is per square foot. Straight here, and indicated there. Now here's a garage and carport. This is for a garage. I believe this is carport. So I'm just going to click on one as an example. And straight across, you're going to actually have to look down for this one. The first comp is right here, 41. Second comp, 41, etc. Okay, now matched pairs, 33,000. That's pretty much it's always high when it's matched pairs. That's literally the one difference subject to comps. So if you want more information about matched pairs, you can go up to the top and click on matched pairs. And the information regarding this amount is indicated there. That's for half bath, garage, fireplace, below grade. Once again, you'll have all this support later. Okay, so I'm going to go back over to side by side. And as you can see, you can tab back and forth between them. All right, now one thing I will show you guys that's important to know, I'm sure you've seen this yellow box as I was scrolling around. This yellow box indicates that MLS, public, and our peer, nobody had the information for this subject's or this comp's site size. So if it's blank, you would definitely want to retrieve this value, either look it up wherever you want to, whatever source you want to use, you would want to retrieve that because this blank is going into your site adjustment. So for example, I don't know the value, I'm just going to click on something similar. I would type in the square foot or the acre and just click out of the box. It's going to load and it's going to take that value. So if you noticed on the right, it changed the site adjustments a little bit because it incorporated this information. So that's what I mean when I say nothing's in stone. You have the ability to change the adjustments depending on the information you put here. Now I will go ahead and make a site adjustment. I did have a site size variance in my defaults, so it's going to skip over that 30% site size first. So it's not going to adjust this one. It's very similar. And it's not going to adjust that one, and it won't adjust that one. So I'm not even going to make a site adjustment. There's not a point. So I'm going to leave these alone, and you can look at this information later. Okay, so once you go through here, select any adjustments you want. We're going to scroll back to the top of the page. And a couple more things to show you. Under each comp you choose, you have a red button indicating realtor and a blue button indicating tax. Now if you click on this, your MLS gives us any list agent, sell agent information, or remark info that's displayed here, and this is dependent on the MLS. And tax information will be displayed here for reference. So these were actually Appraiser Suggestions. So if you guys go through here and you feel like there's something we could add to your benefit, there's a feedback button here. You just click on it, type whatever information you'd like us to possibly consider, and we get that directly. We've added quite a few things based on your guys' suggestions along the way. Okay, so once we've selected all the adjustments that we want to use, we click on Export to Report. We're preparing the information, everything we have completed in the Genie. We're preparing to send that to Appraise-It, so we're going to let this load. Now this box pops up on its own. You don't have to do anything at this point. We're waiting for this box here. Okay, so once that box goes away, as long as that pops up, this you guys won't see, so please ignore this. But once that box populates and you see this, did your report export correctly, go ahead and click yes. As long as the Appraise-It box populates, you can click yes. Now if it didn't and you were sitting here for 2 or 3 minutes and nothing happened, then you'd want to click no so we can try to send the information back to Appraise-It again. So we're done. Everything we've completed in the Genie, all the adjustments, all the analysis, this is completed. So what you'll do now is close the tab. If you have more than one, just close Appraiser Genie. And we'll go back to Appraise-It. And you'll see the information has been entered into the grid and transferred here based on the 3 comps I chose. Anything that did not make an adjustment or anything we did not select on the adjustment page, there will not be an adjustment here. Obviously, I didn't click on age, so you'd make your own age adjustment if that applied, or go back to our work file and use the age adjustment we gave you. Now, fireplace is the only one I have here. If the property doesn't have a pool, then it's not going to show up anything here because I did have pool as default 3, but there's not a pool, so it doesn't apply. It just puts none there. So what we're going to do now is let this load. And I'm going to go back to the MC. And as you see, here is an example of the comment I showed you earlier in the defaults. This is what we put here as an example. If the MLS doesn't give us any kind of concession information, we will just not include that. We will report 0% if that's not given to us, which is why 0 is here. Now you can leave these as stated or you can overwrite them, write your own, do whatever you'd like to. We put the checkboxes here. We'll fill this information out. Very narrowed search. I only had 14 comps in there, so that's all that's included at this point, the solds and actives. Okay, now I'm going to show you guys the bulk of what we really do to help you. In Appraise-It, you guys don't actually have a work file. So what we do is you'll go down to your file folder, your file explorer on your computer. You just click on this down here. And we're going to go to where the information is stored. We're going to go to this PC. And feel free to email us if you forget where the file path is, but it should be similar because once you go here, you have the tray data folder, which everyone has with Appraise-It. So you just click on tray data. And now you'll have an Appraiser Genie folder. Every report you run in Genie, we make a folder for, and all the graphs, all the PDFs are going to be in each report's individual folder. So we'll click on Appraiser Genie. And this is the date modified, so that indicates this is the one I just ran. I haven't ran any previous to that. So as you see, there's automatically a folder name created. And we're going to double click on this. You don't need to worry about anything else. Just click on Output. And here are some graphs that we provide you. Let me try to double click on a few. And I have a really big monitor, so I'm sorry if it's kind of big. Okay, so here's an example of a couple of graphs we give you. You could put these in your report. I can show you how to do that later, or you can just leave them here as a reference. Now we're going to go to Work File. And as you see, there are a ton of PDFs in here. Every tab we saw at the top of Appraiser Genie, that's all been converted individually into a PDF. So I can click on Extraction. And if I had more information or more questions regarding extraction, I can look at all these PDFs in the support, and they're here for everything we did. So I'm going to click out of this, and I'm going to go to the cost page. Now the cost page is pretty cool because you have your cost approach value here in the middle. Below that, we send your subject's information, and they return the last 3 digits of the subject zip code, and they provide the material, labor, equipment, and total cost breakdown for absolutely everything. For windows, floors, everything you could possibly want is in here. Allocation, they return to us the percentages out of the total replacement cost, which is what we use as part of your allocation adjustment. So you guys can look at this as frequently, do whatever you want with it. It's all here for you for every single report. You have your GLA percentage of cost, garage percentage of cost, porch and patio, and here's the dollar per square foot for GLA and the dollar per square foot for garage percentage. I'm just going to close these out. Okay, now there were some graphs I had set as a default. They're in here as well. And here's your land page. Land is going to give you the extraction method based on site, and then you have your allocation method based on the site adjustment. Now I didn't click on these, but they're in here, so if you did end up wanting to go back to make a site adjustment, it tells you at the very bottom which you adjust for. And it gives you the address so you know which one to relate this to. So they're not hard to read, you just have to get used to looking at them. Now something you might want to know that'll help you, we do pull the assessor total value, the assessor improvement value, and the assessor land value. We pull that information for the subject and the comps you use in the report. So that relates to the land allocation method. We do use the assessor improvement value and land value. And up top you have your extraction land value adjustment. Now I'm going to show you guys how to put these in the report if needed. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll minimize this and go back to Appraise-It. Up top here you have an insert button. You just click on PDF Experimental, and it's just going to pull up your file explorer, and we're going to navigate to where those PDFs are. So we're just going to go back to Tray Data, Appraiser Genie, Report Name folder, Output. You can click on graphs if you want them in the report. We're going to go to Work File, and I'm just going to click on Allocation as an example. Click on Open, and Next. We're going to leave it on All. Next. And this is the default, so Finish. Alright, now as you see, I did place this PDF into my report. So these are very beneficial. They have a ton of information, much more than I could probably ever explain to you guys, but there's a lot here to help you. And that's pretty much the gist of it. That demo would have taken under an hour. We did start a little bit late, but now I want to allow anyone who has questions to go ahead and ask me anything you need clarification on, how to get started, whatever you need answered, I'm here for. Anyone who was previously unmuted, I went ahead and turned the mics back on. If you guys don't have a mic, you can type in the chat box at the bottom, and I can answer your questions there if you don't have a mic. No one has any questions today? Did I do that good of a job? I can hear some of you guys, but I can't hear very clearly, so I don't know if anyone's asking me a question or not.
Well, let me press.
Thank you. Is it George? Am I saying that right? George
Yes.
Campos? Awesome.
Yes.
I'm glad you're impressed. I want to let you guys know I'm not an appraiser, believe it or not, but I use this program so much that I actually understand most of the concepts used in the real estate industry. So if you have more in-depth questions as far as, for example, I can show you an example. Well, if my page would work, I would show you. Give me 1 second. Okay, so anyway, as far as the adjustments, I have the exact information as to how they're derived behind the scenes. And the reason why I have this information here is because this is totally accessible to you. If you wanted more information on an age adjustment, you multiply the comp age times the average annual rate of depreciation times the assessor value. This is all public information that the Appraisal Institute, Columbia Institute, they use the exact same formulas we do. So this is public knowledge. If you ever have any more questions, more detailed, just email info@appraisergenie.com and we'll be glad to help. Tammy, why did the comp range on top of page 2 not report the high sales price of cell 3? Let me go back. Hold on one second, guys. Are you indicating the 305? Why is it not considered into this down here? Let me go back into this. That I'm not sure. I believe it should be in there. I can ask Andy that. That's like a programming thing, I'm assuming, because I would assume, yes, definitely the 305 would be included. I can ask our programming team. We integrated with Appraise-It about a week ago, so I don't know if that's influencing it or maybe something was changed as far as why that's not considered, but either way I can let you know. Now, a lot of this stuff, as indicated, you wouldn't believe how many MLSs I run across nationwide that do not indicate any kind of heating or cooling, or they just flat out don't indicate fireplace, whatever the case is. So if anything comes up blank when you guys run this on your own, don't assume the MLS doesn't have it. Send us a copy of the MLS export that you were using, and we'll look over it and make sure that it's not actually a mapping issue, or maybe we didn't grab the right column, that sort of thing, because we want to fill this area out as completely as we can. So please let us know if that applies to you when you do use it on your own. And once again, Tammy, I have your information. I will look into it and see what's going on. Anybody else have a question? Hey, if no one else has a question, feel free to, as stated, go back to appraisergenie.com, click on the training tab. You can view this video anytime. If you have not set up Appraiser Genie or you're a new user, please email mls@appraisergenie.com. Or if you just have general questions, please call 325-704-2592 or email info@appraisergenie.com. Once again, I hope I answered everyone's questions. If you guys need more help, just let us know. And I thank everyone for taking the time out to attend the webinar today. You guys have a great day. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, George. I'm glad I was informative. Anything I missed, I will make sure to include this in future webinars for Appraise-It. Thank you.